Well, this is weird because I'm not usually in front of the camera. For the past 15 years, I've worked behind the scenes for Lindblad Expeditions' video department, working closely with our videographers in some of the most remote places in the world. Occasionally, I get to check out some of these places myself, and lately, I've been bringing my mom along. Last summer, we traveled to Galapagos on the National Geographic Endeavour 2 to explore some of the most unique islands on the planet, while rubbing elbows with some of the world's most amazing endemic species. But this time, we were guests on the National Geographic Sea Bird for the Wild Alaska Escape itinerary. This voyage contains Southeast Alaska's finest, with plenty of activities to boot, which makes my mom happy because she's chock full of energy and ready for anything. So join me for a recap of our time together while we sailed, biked, hiked, and attempted to paddle our way through the islands of Southeast Alaska on one nimble and nifty small ship.
Oh, that was great.
Just a few weeks before our departure, Mom and I received our expedition packets, which contained our ship tickets, luggage tags, and other helpful info. We were both super excited for our next trip.
Hi.
I have fond memories of summer vacations with the family. Whether it was amusement parks and trips to the city,
There's our newest photographer in the family.
or embracing the outdoors by camping and hiking.
Pretty neat area, huh?
I've been pretty lucky with this amazing opportunity to return the favor and give my mom some unforgettable vacations. Mom has always been the non-stop type, but since her retirement, she has embraced the outdoors and a very active lifestyle. When she's not being crafty and designing her own handbags and quilts, she's hiking, biking, and paddling every chance she gets. This is one of the reasons these small ship expedition cruises are perfect for her. You could slow down and relax, or go hard and hit every daily activity. Speaking of expedition cruising, what is it, and how did we get here? Okay, I'll be brief. That's Sven Lindblad,
Hello.
one of the pioneers of this kind of travel. His father, Lars-Erik Lindblad, was a Swedish immigrant with big ideas to bring travelers to the most remote places to learn about the world and all that's in it. He was the godfather of ecotourism, and about 50 some odd years ago, he was the first to bring non-scientific travelers to both Antarctica and Galapagos. And by doing so, he's established and funded some of the very first conservation efforts in those areas. Fast forward to the early 1980s,
When you explore the coast of Baja California,
and Sven's company, Special Expeditions, was operating under the same model in areas like Baja California and Alaska. Jump forward even more to our current summer Alaskan voyage, and you'll find the very same style expeditions, but just under a different name. Lindblad Expeditions, National Geographic. A relationship established in 2004 and still going strong via a fleet of 10 Nat Geo branded ships. Okay, back to our pre-voyage prep.
Hi.
Hi.
Mom and I got on a video call quickly to chat about our upcoming trip and to work out any last-minute details.
What are you most excited about?
Right. The hiking, the kayaking,
You're excited about the activities.
all the activities. Yes.
Well, I'm glad you're excited. I guess we'll see you in Seattle.
Well, happy flying. Have a safe trip. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Our voyage starts in Juneau, Alaska's capital, meaning our journey would require a quick layover in Seattle. Mom has never been to the city, so we decided to stay an extra day to explore. After finding Mom at the baggage claim and a quick reunion celebration, we headed out. Only got a couple of days in Seattle? Here's how to be the ultimate tourist in just 10 easy steps. Step 1. Take the Link light rail right from the airport. No transfers needed. This commute couldn't be easier. Step 2. Grab some lunch at your hotel's snazzy rooftop restaurant and then venture out. Step 3. Make your way to the Space Needle via
The monorail. It's zippy, almost mile-a-minute ride.
Make a big deal about its existence. Take some silly photos. Step 4. Walk around the Space Needle and marvel at its 1962 World's Fair era glory. Step 5. Get your tickets, take an embarrassing fake photo while you wait in line, then jump in the elevator and head up 605 feet to the tower's observation decks. Grab an adult beverage, celebrate with Mom, and enjoy the sunset views. Step 6. Book a guided bicycle tour of the Emerald City. Such a fantastic way to see Seattle's downtown, waterfront, and surrounding neighborhoods. Step 7. Return your bikes and head to Seattle's public market. Grab a coffee at the original Starbucks and then check out all the vendors. Oh, and have Mom catch a fish. Step 8, just a street over, wonder and marvel at the very impressive and super gross gum wall. Force Mom to make a contribution. Step 9, take a moment and walk down to the waterfront, scope out some of the shops and views from the pier. And finally, Step 10, book a Seattle Underground tour. Did you know that underneath the Pioneer Square neighborhood, the original ground floor still exists? After the Great Seattle Fire of 1889, the city was rebuilt, and eventually these streets were filled in, and the second story became the new ground floor. Pretty weird. Wow. We crammed a lot into a day and a half and got super lucky with some great weather. The next day, we headed back to the Seattle airport and boarded a plane to Juneau, where our expedition would begin. The flight was quick and impressive. We were greeted by Juneau's beautiful landscapes and mountain peaks. Juneau is Alaska's capital, and for many Southeast Alaska travelers, the beginning of their journey. We checked out some shops, got lunch, and soaked in the rarely seen summer sun. It was about time to board National Geographic Sea Bird, but we couldn't find... whoops, there it is. Seeing our small, cozy home for the next 5 nights sitting right next to these giants was unreal. Wow. This week, this small ship will take us to some of the small corners of Southeast Alaska that these giant cruise ships could never access, but more on that later. After coming aboard and being greeted by the staff and crew and getting all the safety drill info out of the way, our embarkation began with a beautiful sunset to end the day. The first night on board, Anna,
hello, nice to meet you.
Our expedition leader, explained the itinerary and a rough idea on what to expect. The ship will head to Tracy Arm Fjord's Terror Wilderness, where we get up close and personal with Tracy Arm Glacier. Day 2, we'll find ourselves exploring Haines, the most northern part of the Alaskan Panhandle. Some cruising among George Island and the Indians will be Day 3, followed by some Pavlov Harbor exploration on Day 4. We'll get to check out some of the town of Sitka after we disembark, so there'll be plenty to look forward to. Mom woke up early the next morning for the daily stretch class with our wellness specialist. There's one aboard every voyage. Meanwhile, I just stood on deck and stared at the incredible fjord as we approached Tracy Arm Glacier. Bluebird days are not so common out here, but holy smokes did we get some amazing sun that made the hints of green along the mountain passage really pop. Before we knew it, we arrived at the glacier and took in the sheer magnitude of it all and the ice's intense deep blues. Our naturalist explained that the long red wavelengths are absorbed by the ice, which makes the shorter blue wavelengths scatter. The longer the light travels in ice, the more blue it appears. Pairing that with our cloudless day already, it set the bar pretty high for the week. Then they dropped the zodiacs. Getting up close and personal with the areas that Lindblad and Nat Geo travel is what sets apart a cruise from an expedition. Sometimes our Zodiac drivers were also our naturalists, meaning purposeful cruising paired with informed commentary, which also went well with a taste of centuries-old ice as a quick snack.
You want to taste it?
Really?
Yeah.
These kinds of activities really haven't changed much at all in the last 40 years that Lindblad has operated here.
The little Humber boats are the key to this sort of versatility and provide at the same time intimate mini voyages of their own.
Being pretty familiar with Lindblad's archival films and media, it was a fun task to find and compare the expedition history in this area with what my mom and I were experiencing. And it's pretty neat to see that not much has changed. The style of exploring and overall guest experience still holds true, decades later. Anyway, back to our expedition. After a great tour containing ice, harbor seal sightings, and some cabbing, our Zodiac cruise came to an end and we headed back the way we came, eventually exiting the fjord, but not before spotting a few mountain goats grazing on impossibly high vegetation.
Oh, it's a little baby dog.
We were so excited about the experience we just had. The day could have ended there and we would have been satisfied, but the National Geographic Sea Bird cruised toward Williams Cove near the mouth of Tracy Arm for the day's second outing. Once we arrived, we dropped anchor, and the Zodiacs went ashore to explore and get our first taste of the temperate rainforest of Southeast Alaska. These style hikes are a classic Lindblad favorite, with a little bit of foot travel by trail, followed by some true bushwhacking. Mom is no stranger to these kinds of hikes, so she was definitely in her element. This time of year, the salmon are running from the ocean to the many streams of Southeast Alaska, which means there's all kinds of wildlife activity. Bears, eagles, and other predators love this time of year, so we had to keep a close eye on our footing at times in order to avoid the salmon carnage. It was great to stretch the legs and breathe it all in, but it was getting late in the day, and it was time to get back on board where we could go through our photos and reminisce about the amazing first day of our trip.
For you? Yes.
But not before some boozy hot chocolate served on deck by our faithful purser.
Thank you.
With the first day of our expedition in the books, we couldn't wait for what the next day would bring. We woke up early and eager and were greeted with another gorgeous sunny morning as we approached the coastal port of Haines. Haines is perfect for hiking and paddling in the summer months and backcountry skiing in the winter. It was another chance to stretch our legs as we had a handful of excursions to choose from. And surprise, surprise, the bike ride and more advanced hike were the two that Mom picked. We met our first guide, who gave us a quick overview of the hike, and then we jumped in the van and headed south to the trailhead of Mount Riley. This 5-mile out and back, 1,500-foot trek would be Mom's biggest hike ever. Admittedly, I was a little nervous, but Mom didn't show an inch of hesitation and took off in full stride. Along the way, we admired the giant Sitka spruce and western hemlock up high while avoiding the armed and spiny Devil's Club down below. The hike started gradually, but before too long it became a steady route and rocky staircase up. But a sudden trailside wildlife sighting forced us on a well-deserved break. Jamina,
Howdy, hi!
our naturalist and certified photo instructor, was along for the hike and took a great photo of the bird to share back on board. You can expect a photo instructor on every Lindblad Nat Geo voyage. Not only are they helpful with any photo tips along the way, but sometimes they're the only ones that capture the unexpected. In this case, it was a grouse, and something the rest of our shipmates would not have seen. So we were grateful for Jamina's fast shutter finger. The grouse eventually went on its way, and we scrambled up the rest of the trail to the peak of Mount Riley. And what a view! Mom was tired, but so excited. Her highest height gave us some amazing 360-degree views. We were surrounded by the Chilkoot and Chilkat inlets, while the enormous mountain ranges wallpapered the perimeter. After a quick lunch, we made our descent and headed back into town to get ready for our next activity. What a great morning. While others signed up for some light hikes, rafting, and instructional fly fishing, Mom and I chose the 9-mile bike tour as our second excursion. This out-and-back ride along the Lutak Inlet was quite the complement to our already active morning. But it's our favorite activity when we get together, so we were ready for the challenge. We headed off following our guides while taking in some big Alaskan views. We stopped a few times to take some photos while our local guides taught us a bit about the area. The mostly flat terrain made for some quick mileage. We arrived at Chilkoot Lake, took some more photos, made a U-turn, and headed back south towards Haines for another round of majestic views. Before we headed back to the ship, we took advantage of the remaining time and walked around town to check out some of the shops and to cash in on some complimentary drinks at the local distillery. Back on board, we were greeted with a cocktail bar on deck. Hello! And another beautiful sunset, which was a perfect complement to a day full of activity. Once again, we scrolled through our endless photos from the day and prepared ourselves for another adventure. What was next? The next foggy and overcast morning, we woke up in the area of the Icy Strait and the Indian Islands. The night before, we were told, but not promised, that it's common to find some whale activity in this area. The events that followed were way beyond any experience we could have ever imagined.
Good morning on the National Geographic Sea Bird. It is 6:30 a.m. and we have humpback whales off the bow. So please grab a cup of coffee and meet your naturalists outside. See you soon.
The wake-up call from our expedition leader was unexpected, so we all gathered on deck with cameras and binoculars at the ready. Before too long, we spotted some flukes and whale blows in the distance. These sightings grew in number, and we started seeing humpbacks in all directions, many of which approached the bow. That's when our naturalist and expedition leader dropped a hydrophone. It's basically an underwater microphone, and we got to hear some incredible whale vocalizations. Our naturalist explained that these whale noises were common with bubble net feeding, a cooperative method used by groups of humpback whales to hunt for food. The group create bubbles while circling their fish prey, and their vocalizations coordinate the group to then simultaneously swim upwards with their mouths open to catch schools of fish. It was incredible to see all this activity so close to the ship. Even guests who were serious photographers were putting away their giant zoom lenses and grabbing their smartphones to catch these close encounters that were just a few feet from our ship. What was great about this seemingly never-ending and unexpected event is that our small ship, paired with a very loose itinerary, could hang around the area a little longer than anticipated. Here's why. The captain and the expedition leader will make the call and alter the day's plans based on what unfolds. This makes for a spontaneous expedition and truly a choose-your-own-adventure-like experience. Curious on what goes into those decisions? Take a visit to the bridge and just ask. An open bridge policy can be found throughout the entire Lindblad National Geographic fleet. Anyway, it was a little bittersweet for Mom, as our original plans were to go kayaking later that day, an activity she had really been looking forward to. But we had high hopes for another day of paddling, and could we really complain? The day's whale watching was much more than we could have asked for.
Mom, did you get anything?
I did. Look at this.
You're a pro.
We found ourselves on a Zodiac tour for the second half of the day, but this time we explored the Indian Islands archipelago. The plan was to find stellar sea lions, the largest of the species, which we were pretty excited about. We hadn't seen any sea lions yet on our voyage. It wasn't too long into our tour that we spotted, heard and smelled the colony. Our naturalist explained that stellar sea lions are found in coastal waters in the northern Pacific Ocean, spanning from Japan to central California. Here among the Indian Islands, due to the tidewater surge in this major inlet, an upwelling brings tons of nutrient-rich water, meaning a potential feeding frenzy for wildlife like seabirds and sea lions. The wildlife activity was chaotic but exciting. It was difficult to focus on just one thing as the frenzy was all around us. We finally broke off from all the excitement and found some calmer waters.
Kelp ahoy! Kelp ahoy! Kelp ahoy!
And it wasn't long until we found ourselves in a sea of kelp. Our naturalist noted that bullwhip kelp played a key role in this area. The seaweed forms large kelp forests, which provide habitat for many other species. And we were lucky to find some adorable sea otters taking advantage of just that. Our naturalist had a couple surprises up her sleeve, and we discovered that this kelp was not only tasty,
Cheers.
but doubled as a natural wind instrument, if you ever forget your horn. Whales, sea lions, seabirds, sea otters, kelp. It was a crazy day of wildlife sightings, and yet another opportunity to share our photos with some of our new friends that we met on board. Tomorrow was our last full day on the National Geographic Sea Bird, and who knows what we might encounter. We were greeted by yet another sunny morning as we arrived at Pavlov Harbor after our overnight travel through the Chatham Strait. Today's plan was to observe some bears and then get to that kayaking activity, which the whales decided to reschedule the day before. Once again, we loaded the Zodiacs, but this time we had a choice on whether to observe the bears from our small boats or make a landing and approach, at a safe distance of course, by foot. Mom and I were eager to yet again stretch the legs, so we chose to approach by land. Jamina was just as excited as we were. We've been looking forward to seeing these bears all week. After a short walk along the coastline, we arrived at the creek and a hotbed of salmon, which could only mean one thing: bears. Our naturalist asked the group to remain quiet as we observed their feeding. It also served as an opportunity to really take it all in. We listened to the gurgling water, the slight breeze, an occasional splash of a fish leaping, seagulls squawking, and of course, the bears, who are actually pretty quiet and hyper-focused on their meal. We all stayed long enough to observe, take photos, and really experience another once-in-a-lifetime encounter. The staff explained that brown bears in Alaska are about 1/3 larger than their inland cousins of Europe, North America, and the subarctic, likely due to their abundant food supply of protein-heavy salmon and rich berries. The Alaskan coasts are home to the world's largest brown bears, and their amazing sense of smell can aid them in detecting scents from miles away. They are incredibly impressive hunters, so we were happy to keep our distance while they took advantage of the all-you-can-eat salmon bar. The bear watching was meditative and quite memorable for all of us, but it was time to leave them be and head back to our ship. We had some kayaks waiting for us, and we couldn't wait to explore more of the shoreline. It was just a short journey to our next activity. We arrived at the cove, our ship dropped anchor, and we waited as the staff and crew deployed a fleet of kayaks on a pebble beach nearby. Mom was pumped. Her last expedition kayaking experience brought her some awesome close encounters with pelicans, Galapagos penguins, and blue-footed boobies. It's kind of a classic Lindblad Nat Geo favorite, and you'll find kayaking opportunities in almost all the areas they explore. Whether it's the polar regions, North America, South Pacific, or just off the equator, there's nothing like experiencing the wild at sea level. Anyway, the first group of kayakers loaded the Zodiacs and we headed ashore, but things came to a halt quickly.
Yeah, we got a bear just down the beach at our 6 o'clock. Yep, I see it. We'll hold off. Let's just tread water and stand by.
We had a curious bear too close for comfort, so the staff and crew abandoned our beached kayaks and headed just offshore to wait it out. A few Zodiacs filled with guests arrived just in time for the bear sighting. The problem is, the bear took his sweet time and we missed our kayaking opportunity. The staff made the final call and we headed back to the ship. Sorry, ignore the intense music. It really wasn't that big of a deal. Remember that small ship, loose itinerary, choose your own adventure I mentioned earlier? Well, it comes in handy with these unplanned moments. Sure, we didn't get to kayak, but who gets to jump in the frigid Southeast Alaskan waters with their mom?
How was it?
That was great.
Was it cold?
Yes.
And how else would you get a nifty patch commemorating your polar plunge activity? Mom and I had an incredible Alaskan experience.
Bye.
You did it.
All the quintessential Southeast Alaskan moments that you only see in National Geographic, but right here in front of us, every day of our expedition. The last night, our photo instructor collected some of the best shots from the guests and staff and created a slideshow. We had a blast reliving our time on board and all that Southeast Alaska had to offer. The next morning, we arrived in Sitka and said our final farewell to the National Geographic Sea Bird. We really did get attached to her. This small ship was not just a place to sleep and eat, but a platform for exploration and education. Every single staff and crew member was just as part of this amazing experience as the bears and the whales were. We were really going to miss this nimble and nifty ship. We had a few hours before our flight back to Seattle, so we checked out an eagle rescue and the Sitka Historical National Park. Technically, our expedition cruise had ended, but we were still enjoying some unforgettable moments. Flash forward to the Seattle airport, and Mom and I said our goodbyes and went our separate ways.
Bye, Mom. Safe travels.
Wow, what a trip! The things we saw, the experiences we had, the memories we made.
Oh, it was just breathtaking.
You're not still salty about the whales interrupting the kayaking, are you?
Kayaking just wasn't meant to be. First it was the whales and then it was the bear. It made it fun, you know? You just go with the flow and do what you have to do. And we got to jump in the water.
It seems like you're getting pretty used to this expedition thing.
Where are you taking me next time? My bags are packed.
Great question, Mom. Where to next?